here's Brody Brazil.
The NHL is currently sitting on 32 teams. That's a number they arrived at a couple years ago. And now there's two more questions. Will they eventually get to 36? And if so, who are those next four cities going to be? Tons of speculation out there. I've obviously identified four different skylines. Do you recognize what all four of these cities are? But now a report out there, a very reliable report out there, has identified not only these four cities as being the top potential candidates at this moment, there's also a fifth bonus city also in the mix that you may not have expected. Frank Saravalli has this report on Daily Faceoff saying, quote, the league, which informed interested parties for expansion, that the expansion fee is a tidy $2 billion, updated the Board of Governors at their annual June meeting on Wednesday prior to the draft. Let me just reiterate here. We also wondered, what might an expansion fee look like here in 2025 or beyond? And apparently that number right now, for maybe another year down the road, 6 months, 2 years, whatever, in the very near future, that number is likely to be $2 billion. You might be thinking, wait, what did the Golden Knights and Kraken recently pay to expand into the NHL with? How about the history of NHL expansion fees? I've gone back all the way to 1967 and various different teams and situations here, like the Kings joining the NHL. How about in 1972? Obviously, Atlanta's in the mix here again for 3.0. How about the Atlanta Flames of 72, the Atlanta Thrashers of 1999, in addition to the Sharks in 91, the Ducks of 93, Nashville of 98, Vegas and Seattle, the two most recent teams into the NHL. So all these teams, all the decades, you ready for the numbers? Watch this. From $2 million to $6 million. To the Sharks at $45 million for an expansion fee. Then in the late 90s, up to $80 million for the Preds. And yeah, there's a bunch of other teams here I've left out of the mix. But these numbers kind of stayed flat for a while. It was 80 and then $80 million for 98 and 99. Then in the 2017 season, when the Vegas Golden Knights joined, it was $500 million, then up to $650 million for the Kraken. So 2 to 6 to 45 to 80 to 500 to 600 to now $2 billion. Maybe times 4 if it really is 4 expansion teams for the NHL. You can just see that number has skyrocketed. And of course, valuation of these franchises has also gone up. But I don't think inflation rises this fast. I mean, this is on its own separate trajectory. So now that we've understood that expansion fees are going to be tidy, as Frank says, he goes on to mention this. The 4 cities shared with the Board of Governors are Atlanta, Houston, Indianapolis, and New Orleans. So were those the 4 that you expected? What's your initial reaction to that? I know everybody's going to have a different feeling, and if you're Canadian, you're certainly going to have some opposition. By the way, that bonus 5th city, which we're about to get into, not a Canadian city. I'll blow that surprise right now. What do you think about Atlanta, Houston, Indianapolis, and New Orleans? So I'll give you my thoughts in just a second. But first, I also want to mention that 5th bonus one is Austin, Texas, according to sources. And that entry has generated buzz. Not only is it an exploding affluent market full of transplants with a built-in geographic rival, the Dallas Stars, they're only a couple hours driving away, but it's also the only one where the NHL can be the first major pro sports league in town, which has been a huge part of their success, beating others to the punch in Las Vegas. I mean, Frank makes a great observation and point there. The Golden Knights, seem significantly more successful, I kid you not, than the Las Vegas Raiders. The Golden Knights have their own fans, dedicated fans, a fan base that's very passionate about the team. The Raiders rely on out-of-town fans to fly in every other Sunday for 8 times a year. The Golden Knights have to fill T-Mobile 41 plus times a year, all the playoff games included, and they do a nice job of it. A homegrown fan base, when you're the first one in town, there's obviously that attachment. And for a number of different reasons, I think that one might be the most low-key that people don't think enough about. Obviously, we'll look at market size, we'll look at population and businesses that are in Austin in just a second, but don't forget, being first in town is a big deal. And Austin's big, and if you can be first in a big place, that should work out well. Here are the thoughts I have on the next 4 cities. They're all NFL markets, right? So every one of those cities between Houston, Atlanta, Indy, and New Orleans, they currently have NFL teams. So they must be big to a certain degree. There is a proven reliability that, generally speaking, those franchises have been in those respective cities for a while now. So there is some credibility to those cities based on the fact that not just because it's a football team, but that they can support a football team. Oh yeah, they're also all NBA markets. So you're not the first in town by any means in all of these places, but they are very well established. Maybe safe is the word I'm looking for. And actually, if you think about the NBA market part of it, theoretically, and I don't know the ice manufacturing capabilities at all the respective NBA buildings of those four cities, but if you really think about it, if you wanted to expand tomorrow to those cities and you had to get teams in there tomorrow to those cities, you would think there's at least a suitable NBA arena that could be converted quickly for hockey. May not be the best, but it could be a temporary landing spot for a couple of years. Although, I'll tell you, I think it's the NHL's ambition to not do that if they can avoid it. I think they'd be looking to have NHL-specific arenas in all four of those cities. That does also kind of feel like it comes with the territory of being an expansion team. Like in Atlanta, they're talking about the Gathering at South Forsyth. They don't want to play where the Hawks play. They want their own separate hockey-specific building. But my point is, if you wanted to do it quick and you wanted to assure having a team and a landing spot, all of those cities have suitable NBA/maybe NHL arenas. In terms of just the geography and the landscape and the traditional hockey market mantra, right? A lot of people talk about, well, is this a traditional hockey market or not? What does traditional hockey market mean? To me, it means that it snows and you can skate on a pond in the middle of winter. Like, enough people grew up skating, learning how to play hockey. I would think in Indianapolis, which I don't know if it's necessarily like a hockey hotbed. Obviously, I know it exists. I know the state of Indiana and Illinois and kind of that quadrant surrounding the Great Lakes up there. It is a hockey-centric region of the United States. I don't know if it's not like Chicago. It's not like the Northeast. But yeah, Indianapolis might be the only snow market. It might be the only one that could be considered as a traditional hockey market. In Atlanta, in New Orleans, and in Houston, it's not snowing like on any regular basis. It's not a freeze the pond and go skate on it type situation. I don't know if that matters. I think that kind of shows me that the NHL and maybe considering these four cities first, and Austin obviously is not part of that equation either, they're thinking about going to places where they need to grow the game. They're not thinking about a second team in Toronto, which I've always thought might be interesting. They're not trying to go to the province of Saskatchewan. They're not considering Quebec City. So they are really staying south of the border. And they're also staying very specific in places where hockey may not be the biggest right now, but they feel like they can expand there. If we're also talking about media markets, and I think this is kind of an old way of viewing it because we're talking about television and television ratings and viewership. And look, that is important, but I just mean the size and population and demographic of people, the quantity, the mass quantity of total people. In terms of media markets, Houston's at 6, Atlanta's at 7, and then after that you get Indianapolis at 25 and New Orleans at 50. And I'll show you how Austin fits into this equation in just a second. But 6 and 7 are great. 25 is okay. New Orleans is, I'll be honest, that's kind of the outlier for me here. I don't know. I really don't know how the NHL would work in New Orleans. I know there's been a lot of comments and criticism on that, and I've done videos on New Orleans when that was even brought up a couple months ago. Let me know what you think. Like literally right now in the comment section below, your thoughts on New Orleans. But that's kind of the one for me that just might be on the fringe here as a fourth one. If I was to rank them, I think New Orleans is probably 4th out of 4. And that brings me to the comment here of a Canadian shutout, eh? And I don't say that disrespectfully, Canada, I love you. But it's kind of a weird way to take this. If you are a hockey fan north of the border, and you're like, where's our 8th team? And there's plenty of regions that can support it. I've always said that you need a couple different things here. You need the turnkey arena, you need the great ownership group, you need a rabid fan base, but a lot of times you also need corporate sponsorship through the roof. And a lot of these cities have that versus the Canadian cities, which they have the rabid fan base. They've probably got the ownership group. I just don't know if they have the partner and support and sponsor backing that a lot of these American cities would have. And that might be what it comes down to. Let's talk about Austin as the bonus entry. Again, nice 3-hour drive from Dallas, great built-in rivalry. I think that would be very cool. It would be Texas's second NHL team. Austin media market-wise, again, if we're going back to that, it's number 34, which, by the way, I don't know if it's not market size 4 times bigger, but the population of Austin is 4 times bigger than Salt Lake City, from what I understand. And the NHL just landed in Salt Lake City without any problems. They specifically went to Salt Lake City. So if you're thinking, well, Austin's too small, I don't think that's the case. There's large companies in Austin. Now, these are not necessarily headquarters. Some of them are. I think Whole Foods has headquarters in Austin, but big companies are there. Dell, IBM, Oracle. You ever heard of Amazon or Apple or Tesla or Cisco or Visa? There are tons, and on and on. I had to cut this list short. There are tons of companies there. So think about employees, people obviously working for the company, but also the company as a partner and as a sponsor of these teams. And there's also a younger median age than most big cities across the country for Austin, Texas. There's a significant millennial population that the NHL is obviously looking at and thinking about cashing in on. Brings me to the takeaways. Hit the stinger right on time there. If you're wondering if $2 billion is a lot, and yes, compared to Vegas and Seattle expansion costs, it is a lot. $2 billion is a lot. But the NBA is also considering expansion, coincidentally, in Seattle and in Las Vegas, where the NHL recently was. Their expansion fees are predicted to be, and this is going to happen soon, between $4 and $7 billion. But it also makes sense. NBA teams are valued at a lot greater amounts. So it costs more to pay if you want to play. And so the NHL at $2 billion, it kind of fits into the equation. And don't think that the NHL hasn't looked at the NBA and tried to figure out what the comp is for what a new NHL team should cost. Wait a second. Whoa, the sad face, the crying face. You know, I'm somebody who covered the whole Coyotes demise and the sale of the team and Alex Murillo and what was he doing and selling the team. I mean, he had to the league, and then they turned around and made it the Utah Hockey Club and now Utah Mammoth. You know I'm somebody who would love to see hockey back in Phoenix. I think they didn't get a fair shake down there. Multiple arena tries, but really poor ownership the entire time. What about Arizona? So we're going to literally have a list of 4 plus a bonus team or bonus city. And Phoenix wasn't even in there? I think Phoenix is a top 10 metro market. And they've already got a passion there, and they've already got a name there, and they've already got something they can rally around. I'm telling you right now, and I know there are some small groups, if you're in the valley of Arizona and Phoenix, in the metro area, and if you want to have a hockey team back, now is your time to kick up some sand, kick up some dust, and make a stink. Like, now is the time to say, we're banding together, we want to be noticed, we want to be considered. What about Arizona and all this? I mean, honestly, as I was doing this video, even I kind of forgot that, wait a second, they should be in line for this. And they were in line for it. If Alex Murillo, he had 5 years to get an NHL building built, and he was guaranteed expansion by Gary Bettman and Bill Daley of the league, and he backed out and walked away. Talk about turning your back on a region. So, the quick $8 billion, 2 times 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, quick $8 billion that the league could get if they go to 36. Now, I don't think they would go directly from 32 to 36. I also realize that if they get to 36, realignment is right on the way. I don't know, do you do a different structure? There are more divisions, these smaller divisions, but more divisions. You still do an East and a Western Conference. There's a lot of cool ways you could break this up. How about a Canadian division? I don't know. Like, we could get fun and creative with this. Actually, maybe that's an idea for a separate video. I'll do that next time. Realignment, what would that look like for the NHL? But a quick $8 billion is enticing. You would have to figure things out. I do think they would do 2 at a time. I think they go from 32 to 34, give it a couple years, 34 to 36. But, like, this is the most important part of the video. I've saved it for 14 minutes in, apparently. Gary Bettman has said this, quote, "We have no pending applications, and we're not seeking to initiate a formal process for expansion at this point." So take everything I just said about the next 4 cities and a bonus 5th city, and what about Arizona? Just take it with a grain of salt. Now, the NHL just went through a new CBA negotiation, and maybe they were waiting on that to get this done, and maybe they'll give it a beat, they'll give it a moment, they'll give it 6 months, maybe in December. They'll reconvene with all of this at one of the the Board of Governors meetings down the road, maybe they will kind of make this a little bit more official and say that these 4 or 5 or whatever are under consideration. But as of this moment, it's all speculation, but I think it's justified speculation. Frank's report, I think, is spot on. I'm pretty sure that this is what it looks like. Maybe not entirely, but this is kind of how it looks right now for considering NHL expansion. Let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Also, thumbs up down there helps me, the video, and the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I'd love to see you back here next time. Hit that button now.